Welcome to live stream number 96. Today is November 22nd, 2017. It is 3 p.m. and today's topic on this live stream is how to program fourth axis tombstones. This is a video that I probably should have done a long time ago. So we're going to be jumping right into that. Now, I will say up front that I am going to throw a lot at you. So, just know that you can always rewind back doing the video and kind of like maybe break it down into sections or something like that. But I wanted to cover this. Specifically, I got an email from a guy named Ryan the other day who asked me, how do you do tombstone machining? When we're talking tombstone machining, we're looking at this kind of stuff here. It's normally run on a horizontal machine, CNC mill. So everything today is going to be cam, by the way. So if you're not into cam, take the day off. But this is kind of like what we're going to talk about today. How would you program this type of machines where you can have like multiple parts on the machine, right? So we have like identical parts all the way around. So that's what we're going to cover today. Now, at the end, I want to talk about the 100th episode coming up. So if you haven't heard about this, there's a giveaway that you can participate in. But I don't want to dwell too much on that right now. Some people are watching after the 100th episode, so they don't care. So, let's jump into it and talk about this tombstone machining. So like I said, I should have done this a long time ago. I feel a little bit bad about it, especially because I used to program this type of machines back in the day. And Fusion, I think, actually handles this pretty well. So, like I said, I might throw a lot at you if you're fairly new to cam and all that stuff. So just rewind, rewatch, or send me an email or something like that. Okay. So, inside of Fusion here, I wanted to really start from the beginning and kind of work our way through the whole scenario. I really, I don't like this cooking show where everything is kind of like preset. So I want to go all the way back to kind of the beginning. And that is when we got to talk about posts. Because specifically when we start talking about multi-axis, then post-processors becomes important. And if you click the post-processing tab up here, you will see that inside of Fusion, we talked about this the last week, so I'm not going to go too much into the different settings, but this is the one that comes with Fusion, but you actually can go out and get a lot more, right, like we talked about. So if I search Autodesk post library, if I can spell it right there, Autodesk post library, you will get to this website here. And really what I think is easiest is to actually go by type. So you can kind of like go down here and do what type of machine. Now, we have done a lot with Haas. We have a very close relationship with the Haas machines. So you'll find a lot of them in here. I decided today not to do Haas just because there's something different. I'm a big fan of DMG machines. I think that they are pretty cool. So what I decided was that if I go in here, there is a DMG Mori. And if you look down the description area down here, because we're doing this tombstone on a horizontal, we are looking at a B-axis rotation. So inside of Fusion, when this thing is rotating around, you will have a spindle, and then the tombstone will kind of like rotate around. That is the B-axis that is going to rotate around. So with that information, we can click here on the sample. We can open it up quickly in our viewer, and you will see that it got a B-axis rotation right there. By the way, in this live stream, we're going to be looking at a lot of code, what I hope that you are cool with. So I'm good with the code for this DMG. I'm going to download it. So it's going to be downloaded into my downloads folder. And I cleaned it out before. So you'll see it's all empty. We just have this post that we just downloaded. And now, whoops, with that post downloaded to my computer in Lars's downloads, let's get that into to Fusion so we can actually use it for this demonstration today. Now, I am going to use the cloud library to store this post. So, because then I can access it from any machine. Now it's sitting up in the cloud, what I like. So I am going to make sure in my preferences under CAM that I have enabled cloud libraries turned on. With that turned on, I can now go out to my data panel. I can move out to my main directory. So whatever your name you set up. If you scroll down to the bottom, you will see that you now have an assets folder. Double click on that one. And in here, you will see that you have a CAM post folder. Double click on that. And you will see I already have two posts that I already have up on there. I have a Fidel and I have a Fanoc. So what I'm going to do is I am going to say upload. Just like if you were doing a file, select files. And I'm going to go to that downloads folder and double click on that DMG Mori post that we just downloaded. So now that's going to be uploaded up to the cloud, what means that I can access it from really any machine. Okay, so with that done, what we now have is, if we get back into our file here, if we go back into our post-processing tab, and we go to setup, and I go to use cloud post, that will be available now where I turned on enable cloud libraries in my preferences. I now have those free posts available. So here is the DMG. Okay, so I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes just to show that how I did that. I hope that that is somewhat useful. You need to know that the post is, well, the post is the most important thing. You need to know how to be able to do that. So I hope that was useful. So with that, with the post set up, we can now start to kind of attack how we will do the toolpath. Now, I'm going to show you two ways on how you can manage Tombstone machining inside of Fusion 360. The reason I'm going to show you two ways is I'm going to show you the way that I used to do it, that I used to have my G54, my work offset, right in the center of rotation of the Tombstone. So I only had one work offset, and then I worked everything from that work offset. The other option is that if you have like maybe multiple devices, you're switching a lot of parts around, is to actually pick up each offset on each part and kind of like have a G54, G55, and so forth. And I'm going to show you some tricks within that. So even if you're not doing any Tombstone machining, hopefully you can see a couple of things that you find useful. So with that, with the post setup, let's clean all this out and start all over, because this was just some toolpath I had in there so I could actually be able to access that up there. So I'm going to delete all my offsets and start from scratch. So just like anything else we're doing inside of the CAM environment, we always start with a setup. And inside of that setup in here, this is nothing new. There's a couple of things we got to do in here. First of all, we got to say what we're machining in here. So right now, because it's an assembly, it picks everything. So I'm going to go down here to model. I'm just going to select this part right over here. This is going to be kind of like our testing part to start out with. So now the machine knows what we're trying to machine. Now we're going to set the work coordinate system. This is where is 00 out at our machine. Now, if you ever watched any of my videos, I always tell you I only use one that is like Z plane and X axis, and that goes for That goes for 2.5 axis, 3 axis, and also 4 axis. So I'm going to select that. Now, what we are going to set on here is on a tombstone, there's 4 sides on this tombstone. There's always a side 0. And then there's a side 90, a side 180, and a side 270. That is kind of like the 4 degrees, right? The 4 sides. So the first thing I'm going to set is what is side 0. Now, that really depends on what you have out on your machine and how you decide to set it up. For this one here, just so we can get some B-axis rotation excitement, I am going to set this side here as side 0. And normally that is marked on your tombstone what that is and how you have modeled it up inside of Fusion. So I'm going to select this face down here. I could select any face, but I'm just going to select this face here because that's normally where I would have stamped side 0. So I'm going to click on that. And as soon as I do that, you will see that my triad over here shows, let's try to zoom in a little bit, the Z-axis is pointing at that face. And that's what we want, because on a horizontal machine, Z-axis don't go up and down. It actually goes horizontal with the spindle, because the spindle is kind of like coming in from the side, as you will see in a little bit. I do notice, though, that my Y-axis plus is going down. I want it to go up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the X-axis. So now Z is going towards side 0. Y is up, axis right. This is how like my triad normally should be placed. When I've done that, I got the orientation right. I now have to specify down here where is my G54 or work offset going to be. The way I used to do it, and this is just me, was I used to have it at the bottom, and in this case I have modeled Tombstone up with the origin right down here on the bottom. Okay, so I only have one work offset in here. Now, the reason that I could do that was because I was lucky that I was king when it came to programming at Ridlam, meaning that I was we got the first horizontal CNC machine when I was there. So I got to decide that I want the rotation to be right in center of that pallet that is spinning around. So what I had to do from that was I had to make sure that my CAD model reflected exactly what was out at the machine. So I just made sure that my CAD model was exactly what I had out of the machine. When it came to fixtures and everything, I machined all my fixtures in the CAD software, in the CAD CAM software, so it was exactly what it was in there as it was out of the machine. That made my life a lot easier. So this is the first way I'm going to show you how to do this. Now don't forget, so with this set, the origin down there, the stock is still that piece because we selected that, and the post-processor over here works the same way as it always does, that 0 and 1 would be G54. But we are not going to have multiple work offsets if we're doing it this way. We will deal with the other way with multiple work offsets in just in a second. So with this way here, hit OK. This setup tells us that Z plus is this face, pointing towards this face. So this is side 0. G54 is the center of rotation. So now I can start programming my part over here. So to do that, I'm just going to select a facing operation. And this is all the standard operations as you're used to. I'm going to select the tool. Doesn't matter. I'm going to select the 10mm flat end mill. Nothing fancy. The trick comes on the second side where we normally select our geometry. Because in the setup, we specified kind of like the machine side of everything. Now, we are going to specify where the tool comes from. So what side are the tool attacking? And we're doing that with this tool orientation. Now, if you're getting a little confused at this point, hopefully, we're going to do this a couple times. Hopefully we don't fry any brains. But you will see something that's going to be very familiar. When I check this, you will actually see that we get the same dialog box as we did when we set the G54 down here. So now, what I'm going to do with this, the Z-axis selected, is I'm going to say, what is my face I'm going to come in a machine on? And that's going to be this face over here. And as soon as I do that, we will see we get the orange triangle that identifies kind of like the perimeters of the part. You will notice how the triad down here changed to, for this operation that I'm in right now, that is how I want the tool to approach this. I hope this is not too much. Down here in the origin, we can just say use the same origin as we specified in the setup. So let me just hit OK to this. And what you get now is, you will see if I click on the setup 3 over here, again, it shows us what we're machining and where the 0, 0 is on the tombstone with the 0 face. When I click on the facing operation, it shows the preview of the tool and it shows what direction that tool is coming in on. So what maybe makes most sense is if we look at this, so this would be side 0, which means this will be size 90 if we're rotating this way around, right? So we're looking, this is side 0, and then we're rotating around, and that would be size 90, size 180, size 270, right? So let's post this out. Go to post-processing, making sure that we are selecting that cloud library, selecting that DMG that I selected before. And by the way, just to add more to it, be aware of all the different options you have down here. If your rotation is not, if this is not 90, but you want this to be 270, it really all it takes is coming down here and say, I want to reverse the direction of the B-axis. So don't freak out. I'm going to leave it that, so this should be side 90. Let's post this out. Now this is a very short program because we don't have much in there. We have a facing operation. But what I want to highlight is, first of all, we're using G54. That was what we wanted in there. We are using B90 rotation. So it actually starts out calling out G54. It rotates 90 degrees. This is what I want you to keep an eye out for. Here is an X 1 inch and Y 15 inches. Now I know I'm jumping a little bit between metric and inches here, but 15 inches. So if we go back and look, that is, well, not me, Fusion. Here we go. So what we are saying is there's 15 inches from the G54 down here up to that part. Okay, and if you're wondering what 15 inches is, somebody asked, what is 15 inches? 15 inches is, this is, I can probably not even show it, is from here to here. Can I get that whole shot? About the whole frame of the camera right now. So that is something you can keep an eye out, that is that number, okay? So this is one way to do that. Now let me show you a couple of tricks while we are in here. So a couple of tips there is in here. So right now I only programmed one part in here, but we can see here that we have identical parts on both sides of this tombstone. So on side 90 and side 270, right? So there's a couple of neat tricks you should know about if you ever are trying to do this kind of stuff. So in here, if I right click, and this works for 3-axis, 2.5-axis too. In here, there's something called patterning. And if you ever watch any of the CAD videos, you know what patterning does. We can kind of like patterning in linear, circular components. But there's something called component pattern. And if I select this, and I select the source, will be the first one, you will see that we just blew all the toolpath on all components that are identical to the one we programmed. Wood, that's pretty cool. Also be aware of you can order by different preferences down here. I normally prefer tool because I want the tool to finish everything it has to do before it moves on to the next tool if we had more operations. However, you need to make sure that when you've done this, you need to make sure you hit OK and you simulate. So let's simulate this. So you will see here that it's going to machine the first one, but then you will see that it went over to start machining on the other side. So that means that it's machining one, then it's going to do a full rotation over here, 180 degrees, to machine these over here, and then it goes back to machine over here again. That is actually 2 rotations when I only need 1. It's not because there's anything broken. It's just because that if you go in and look at the patterning, you will see that we have it set to automatic. By default, it's at automatic. Fusion is just trying to help you out, man, and find all the parts. But if I uncheck it, I can actually now down here in targets selecting the order I want them to be done in. Okay, so now when we simulate this, you will see that now it gets done in order, and then it rotates around and machine the other side. Cool? Okay, so with this, let's try to post this out so we can just take a look at the code. Go post, use that same post. So again, the first part have not changed. G54, it rotates to B90, and then it starts machining. So it should machine 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. Then on the 5th part, you will see that it does a B270 rotation to machine the backside of those parts. Okay? All right. So that was kind of like the way that I used to do my Tombstone program. So we're 22 minutes right now. So that's one way to do it. Now, let's jump in. I hope that this is not too much stuffing down your throat. Now, let's jump in and look at it if you want to be able to be flexible and place your work offset anywhere on the Tombstone. You have multiple parts, you want to do different things, another way to do it. So, let's get rid of this here. So let's just clean that up. Now, everything kind of like works the same way as it did before. I'm going to go ahead and create a new setup. We have to select what part we want to machine. I'm going to select the same part. Now, when it comes to selecting the work coordinate system, I'm going to do the same thing I did before. I always use Z-axis with the X-axis. Again, I'm going to select what is face 0. We'll leave it the same. Okay? We need to flip this around because Y would always be up on a horizontal. Then, instead of selecting that origin down there, now I'm actually going to go and select a 0, 0 on the part where I want G54 to be. So let's say we want to go up and select this upper left corner up here. So now we've done everything we did before, except down here, instead of selecting that rotation down here, we are saying G54 is up here with the Z-axis pointing towards face 0. Stock is still the same. Post-processing, this is still the same. Make that number 1 for G54, leave it at 0, whatever you want to do. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. For the same tool operation, we're going to select the facing operation. We're going to select the tool. And then again, on this geometry tab, we have to turn on tool orientation because we need to tell on this horizontal what side we want the tool to machine on. When we did the setup, we were just telling where the 0, 0 was on the machine. So I'm going to select this face over here again, just like before. And I can actually leave this here because I selected stock point on that. But I could, of course, also go over here and select stock point over here and select that same corner. So if we were the G54, maybe we had decided we were going to do it on a vise and then this would be the part. So you have some flexibility right there. Hit OK. We get the same toolpath as before. And now when I post it out, Again, G54 is still the same, B90 is still the same, but you will see that our XY coordinates have changed dramatically. Now we're down to small inches. And actually, let me show you a neat way we could kind of like look at this. If I zoom in a little bit, and we use a tool we used the other day, right-click, View Toolpath, right? Then we get this dialog up on this toolpath here, and we can kind of like click through the simulation, and you will see when we get down here to number 11, we got an X0, what looks about right, and Y is low just a tiny little bit. So that shows me that the outputted code is where G54 is, right on that stock point. So that's how you set it up if you want an individual stock. Now, let me show you another trick. Another one. So, looking at this part here, I actually have 4 of the identical parts. So before we use the pattern tool, it's perfectly okay. But let me show you another option. Again, we've only programmed this face here. If I go back into our setup and I go to post-processing, there is a multiple work offset option over here. If I check that, I can duplicate that one toolpath how many times I want. In this case, I want 4 instances. Hit OK. Let me just regenerate the toolpath. Now, when I simulate this, it's going to be a little disappointing because all you're going to see is this one part that we just programmed. But when I post it, you will see that I end up with 4 identical instances, and the difference is the first one is still G54, that has not changed. But look at the second one, it has a G55, G56, and G57. What that means is that in the CAD and CAM, I only programmed one part, but when I post the code out, I kind of like get 4 duplicates with the work offset changing, in this case G54, G55, G56. What means when I get out to the machine, I will just pick up each corner on the 4 sides and put in G54, 00, G55, 00, G56, and G57, and that way I can duplicate it. Okay? Now, last thing. What if we have 2 completely different parts? So, get back here. What if we want to machine this part and this part over here? 2 completely different parts. Let's go back into our setup and just get rid of I'm going to turn on the duplicate. So we're back to where I was before. We have only programmed this one part with G54 sitting up here. Well, so then to program this part, I'm going to just do another setup because the setup is controlling G54, G55. I'm going to go in and say I'm going to machine this part now, just like before. For the work coordinate, what is side 0? That is over here. I'm going to have to flip my Y. There we go. And this could be somewhat of a casting. So instead of selecting box point, like we did on this model, we could go in and select something like a selected point, and maybe we could pick up this hole. Maybe this hole is already in there. Now on the post-processing tab, I'm going to change this to number 2, what will give me a G55. Right? Remember, 0 and 1 gives us G54, 2 is G55, 3 is G56, and so on. So we leave this as G52. This time, let's not do a phasing operation. Let's select a contour just so it looks a little bit different in the post. But the principles are the same. On the Geometry tab, I gotta turn on Tool Orientation. I gotta select where I'm machining, where my tool is coming in from, what will be on the Z-axis on this face. And again, here I have to flip it so it shows right. Now it indicates to be the same place where I had my setup set, so that's perfectly. In this case here, I'm just going to select a add to machine, what's going to be this inside, and hit OK. So I ended up with two different setups now. First setup just machines this one over here. Second setup is machining this one over here. So let's post this out. You can actually just click up here and let me hit post. Now, when I do that, Fusion is smart enough to know that I'm now actually posting out two different work offset on two different sides. So it just gives us a reminder that you need to have a post that can handle this. That was why we went out and got a post. Hit OK. This is the last time I'm going to post code for you, man. Hit post. Now, first one I haven't changed. Still G54. It's B90. Go over here. When it is done with that, though, for the 2D contour, it's going to switch to G55. And in this case here, it's going to go back to B0, what that side would be, and do that operation. What do you think? A lot of information? I know. Again, rewind the video, take a look at it a couple times. You know, I understand if this is a little confusing. I promise you that you will quickly get a hang of it, and you should be all good to go. Okay, that was camp. Couple of important things to let you know. This is almost the last live stream of this week. It is the last live stream here on YouTube. Tonight, a little after 8 Eastern Standard Time, New York City time, a couple of minutes after 8, there is an absolutely beginner live stream I'm going to be doing on Facebook. So if you haven't checked that out, go to Facebook, search my name, Fusion360, you should find it. And a little after 8 tonight, I'm going to sit down with something else than just tap water, and we're going to model up a cool key. This is absolutely beginner. So it's really if you're just still a little uneasy with the whole fundamentals. But the cool thing about doing that is that you can actually ask me any question right there in the chat, and I will stop what I'm doing and I will try to answer you the best I can, instead of right now where I'm just kind of like waiting till the end. Other thing is that, so tomorrow is Thanksgiving in the United States, and we have Friday off here in the US, so there will not be any other live stream here on YouTube until Monday, so you know that. And then the last thing is that live stream number 100 is coming up, and Curtis, my good friend and colleague Curtis, he have promised me that we will do a giveaway for one of these cool Fusion 360 work shirts. It's kind of like, it's called Dixie, so they're pretty cool. Kind of like heavy-duty work shirts, like if you are machining. What it takes to get a shirt is not much. If you go down the bottom of this video, you will find a link through SurveyMonkey that I set up, and you gotta answer 3 questions. That's all you have to do. There's nothing hard about this. It's gonna take you 2 seconds. You gotta say, how are you using Fusion 360? Are you using it paid? Are you a hobbyist, a startup? I'm just kind of curious. I'm kind of curious to know, how many videos are you watching here on the stream a week? Either videos or live streams. Third one is, what are you most interested in? Modeling, sculpting, CAM, other ones, or do you just want me to keep mixing it up? That's all I'm asking you to do. You do get an option to spill your guts. Any opinions? What do you don't like about these live streams? What do you want to see different? What do you like? All that stuff. And then the last thing, you just got to put in your name, your first name, last name, and your email address. Now, that email address, I just want to make sure you are not going to get any spam from me. It's only me who's going to see it. Nobody else is going to see that email, I promise. Well, if you don't trust me, don't fill it in. But then we're going to be doing this. I'm going to talk about this up through live stream number 100. This was number 96, so you still have time. It's no rush. And then after live stream number 100, we'll pick a random winner that will get this cool shirt that Curtis holds up here. All right, folks. That was all I think that I was planning on talking about today. I hope that this was good. Again, let me know if this was useful. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Be honest if it was not. Also, down in the description area is my email address, lars.christensen@autodesk.com. Send me any future topics you would like to see. If I don't see you tonight on the Facebook Live for Absolute Beginner, then I hope you have an awesome Thanksgiving, even if you're somewhere else in the world. Celebrate Thanksgiving. It's all about good food. There's nothing else about it. And I hope I see you back here Monday. I'm going to end the broadcast as normal. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I'm going to jump into the live stream and say hi to everybody. Take care, guys.